SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
CorinthNissan.com, a large selection of vehicles, $20,000 or under. Don't miss their 543 deal. That's $5,000 off Muranos, $4,000 off Altimas, or $3,000 off the Nissan Kicks. CorinthNissan.com.
It's time for True American Heroes, For the Record, with Jack Rutland. Another exclusive on SuperTalk Mississippi 102.1 FM. Many of our heroes have taken their stories with them to the grave. But this show is about the stories and personal experiences of these veterans.
Well, welcome. This is Jack Rutland Jr., and it's an honor for me to be here once again interviewing one of our local veterans. And today we're honored to have with us Mr. Sidney Arnold, certainly a no stranger to folks around this part of the country. And Mr. Arnold, thank you very much for taking the time to come in and visit with us.
You're welcome.
Well, let's kind of get right into this because this is an interesting experience or two or years of experience that you had as you were actually serving during what's known to many people and historians as the Cold War. Actually, your time in the U.S. Army was right after World War II, and you were involved in an aspect of the military that most people don't know anything about. So we're going to get into that and talk to you about that a little bit. But let's go back to the beginning. You actually volunteered. You wanted to be a part of the military, as all of your family has done.
That's right.
And
my father and all his brothers were volunteers, and I volunteered. My brother didn't. He was married at that time.
Okay, I got you. So you had some strings you had to hang on to, keeping family going. Let's talk about it. You enlisted in 1958, and we were sharing just a little bit before the program, and you actually told me something that I think I knew about, but I wasn't sure that when you enlisted back then, you could choose what you wanted to do.
Absolutely.
So, and you were telling me they had a whole list of things that you could just look down and say, I think I want to do that.
That's right.
Now, tell us what you selected, how you decided to choose that.
I selected the ASA, which is the Army Security Agency, and I done that because I wanted to be in security.
And immediately, a while ago, when you and I were talking, I thought about military police, the MPs.
Well, the security, they called them security guards in Army security. Uh-huh. But yes, they had that too.
That was an aspect of it, but that's not what you were looking for. You wanted to be more involved in the actual security aspect of what was going on nationally and around the world at that time. And as we said, this was 1958. This was only a few years after the end of World War II, and the Cold War was starting to heat up. The hostilities that actually war was never declared, but there was certainly a lot of friction and hostilities between the United States and the Soviet Union and parts of Germany, because Berlin was split after World War II. So you decided to get into ASA, and you went for your basic training. Where?
At Fort Chaffee, Arkansas.
Fort Chaffee, Arkansas. You were telling me about that. I wasn't familiar with Fort Chaffee.
Fort Chaffee, I think, is now closed. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But it's just south of Fort Smith, Arkansas, which is right on the Oklahoma border.
Okay. So what was it like for an old country boy going off to the Army and having to learn about basic Army life?
Well, it wasn't too bad. It was the basic training was always tough. That was tough on everybody. But I being an old country boy, I was pretty well used to that stuff.
You knew how to work.
Uh-huh.
So you went through basic training, and then you went into your specialized training and preparation for your time with ASA.
When I got through with basic, I went to Fort Gordon, Georgia, and that's where the training for that is, for several different things. But for cryptography and that kind of stuff, it was right there.
Okay, you just mentioned a word that we really need to be sure we understand, because as we get into what all you were doing, it's important. What is cryptography?
Cryptography is the using of machines to encrypt and decrypt messages, different messages.
So it wasn't necessarily, though, messages that were between American personnel. It might have been somebody else's messages you were trying to decode?
Well, somebody else would decode and we'd re-encode them.
I got you.
I told you we
That's
had
right.
other men that decoded that stuff.
Okay. And then you would encode them to transmit them to whoever needed to get the
correct.
information.
Yes.
Interesting. Well, you went to Fort Gordon, got your training and all of that. And what happened next? Where did the government send you?
Well, they sent me to Fort Devens, Massachusetts. Now, I don't know if you know where that's at, but it's northwest of Boston.
Okay. Boston.
Yeah. And I got something to tell you about Boston too.
Well, tell me something about Boston right quick.
Well, we were going to Fort Devens. Me and my uncle were both in the ASA, by the way. My dad's brother, youngest brother.
Did y'all go in the same time?
Yes, we did.
How about that?
That took basic together.
Okay.
But anyway, we drove up there, and we was going through Boston, and we come on the outskirts of the north part of Boston, and it was these nice streets with this oaks and everything, shaded trees and everything. And I got seeing signs in the yard. It said, "No dogs or soldiers allowed."
Come on.
And I have had nothing for that part of the country since.
No dogs or soldiers?
Soldiers allowed. I had dogs first, but then had soldiers.
Did you try to ask anybody what that meant? Or we know what it meant.
I really didn't have time because we had to go on to Fort Devens. And when we got there, we had a lot of stuff to do there.
Sure.
We didn't stay very long. And that's reassignment point.
That's correct. All right. So at that point, though, you're getting your assignment, and they're going to ship you wherever your assignment will be. So how did that all?
I think I got this backwards. I think I went to Fort Devens before I went to Fort Gordon.
Okay.
Fort Gordon sent me Fort Devens sent me to Fort Gordon to get my training.
Okay.
From there, I was shipped overseas.
Okay. So from there, you went overseas. Now tell us where you went.
Well, I left Fort Gordon and went to Fort Dix, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And if you've ever heard of a bad place to be, that was one. We spent 4 days on KP before they sent us overseas. We didn't get a break of it. It was every day. After 4 days.
And KP is kitchen police.
You got that right. I was a policeman, see.
You were in security, but you were peeling potatoes or something.
That's right.
Okay, but you were only there 4 days.
All right. 4 days, they sent us over to the Brooklyn docks. That's where they ship out from. Mm-hmm. All right, we got on that little old ship, and we sailed for Germany.
Okay.
I was shipped to Germany.
Okay.
And it was on a little troop ship. I call it USS, United States ship Geiger. Geiger.
Geiger. Okay.
And it was about a boat, not a ship. But anyway, it was rough going over there. We was in a storm a lot of the time.
Oh, my word. And that's actually going through the North Atlantic.
North Atlantic into the English Channel and up there.
Yeah.
But the White Cliffs of Dover never looked better to anybody.
So you say that the ship ride was an experience you could have done without? Lots of waves and rocking back and forth?
Short ship goes up, then it turns over and goes back down, and then the screws come out of the water and it shakes the whole ship.
Oh, my word. Yeah.
It was fun. I was in the mess hall the whole time we was going.
So how old were you then?
I was 19. No, I was 20.
Okay.
I turned 20 in basic training.
In basic training.
Yeah.
Okay, so you survived. You did survive the ship.
Oh, it was nothing really to me. I'd been on water all my life.
Yeah, but it was a little rough.
It was rough.
Okay, so you get to your assignment.
We come into Bremerhaven, Germany, and we get on one of these narrow gauge railroads.
Oh,
I don't know if you've ever seen one.
Yeah,
they're not as wide as ours.
That's right.
The car is pretty wide, but it sticks over the outside of the rail.
That's right.
It just rocks. And while we was going that, we went to Frankfurt, Germany, from Bremerhaven on that little narrow gauge train, and then we got reassigned to where we was going there in Germany. This is about reassignment everywhere you go.
Sure.
Anyway, we went to Heilbronn, Germany from there. After we stayed in Frankfurt a few days. Mm-hmm. And we went to Heilbronn. That's right on the Neckar River. It's in the Neckar Valley. The Neckar River runs down through there. And Stuttgart is just about 20 k's or kilometers away from there.
Well, this is we're just about to come to a break, but this is really interesting because when we come back, we're going to talk just a little bit about what it was like in post-World War II Germany, because you were there just a few years after the conclusion of World War II for your assignment. We're going to talk a little bit about what you saw in the country, and then we're going to talk about your assignment and the part that was in the Cold War. So we'll be right back with Mr. Sidney Arnold, and we'll be right back. Well, welcome back. We're honored again, as I said earlier, to have with us Sidney L. Arnold, a veteran of the United States Army who was a part of the ASA, U.S. Army Division or unit. And he's going to give us a little bit of a history about his time in Germany right after post-World War II, or right at post-World War II, because he was assigned to a base there in Germany while he was serving with the ASA. So again, Mr. Arnold, you've arrived in Germany. You rode that narrow gauge train, arrived in Germany, and you've been assigned to this unit, and it's an ASA assignment. And tell us roughly or briefly what your assignment was. What did you do in a day's time?
Well, what I did, my specific unit, we had different people do different things. We were in the cryptography, what we call the comm center. We had 4 shifts, and we had one constantly off. It's like your 4 shifts in here in the United States. Mm-hmm. And we had a Class A. Now, this is something other people didn't have. We had a Class A pass anytime we were off. So if we weren't working, we could go downtown or anything else. We were off duty.
Okay. So you could leave the base when you needed to or wanted to.
We did some things that other people don't like to hear. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things. They had to work, and we didn't have to work too hard. But that's the choice of joining and not joining.
Well, and we're going to talk briefly in just a minute about what you did with the ASA.
Right.
And this is significantly a part of what was just starting to happen in the early days of the Cold War, as the United States and the Soviet Union and some other countries that were kind of in the Soviet bloc began to kind of ratchet up their watching and listening to each other. You were telling me about your security clearance. I mean, it was more than most normal Army personnel would have had.
It was very top secret. Everything we did was top secret because we were listening. We had men that was on the border, East German border, and they were listening constantly. Everything that they sent over on the other side to anybody was recorded right there, and they monitored it all the way. And they would send anything that needed to be sent on to us. And we would encode it. We had machines that you set them up a certain way, and you had a signal sent to the other people or down line from you, and they would set theirs up the same way. You went by a book. Mm-hmm. You had that set up, your machine set up a certain way. We could encode it with ours, and they could decode it with theirs as soon as it came in. But that was all with telegraph, with teletype. Mm-hmm. And we did that, and that's where we did. Like I said, we had 4 shifts, and we didn't get harassed by anybody. And I'm literal about that. Our boss wouldn't let nobody interfere with us.
You were a priority unit.
Well,
so I guess in essence, to put it in layman's language, you were eavesdropping, and you were listening to the bad guys, and I'm sure they had somebody listening to us.
I'm sure they did. But they didn't break us, not that time anyway.
Yeah. So what you were doing was there was somebody up front who was getting the information, and you guys would put it in some kind of code or way that nobody else could tell what it was. Then you transmit it off.
Yes.
And so therefore we were just constantly listening in case there was some chatter or information that we could gain from their transmissions.
Well, there was constant chatter. Now, it was all the time.
And that's why you had 24-hour shift. You had 4 shifts of 6 hours each, and you were constantly listening and
8
monitoring.
8 hours each.
Okay.
It's 4 shifts, but one was constantly off.
Oh, okay. Okay.
See, we
so
were
it was
3 8-hour
I got
shifts.
you. 8-hour shifts. All
and
right.
after so long, the other shifts come back started right where we started.
Gotcha.
And the one that been on the longest got off then.
And like I said, this was the early days of what became known as the Cold War, and already the United States, just to be on the safe side and to make sure they didn't have any surprises, and there comes the train, you guys were listening in on any kind of traffic, any kind of messages that was coming from the other side.
Right.
Okay.
Right. We had men doing that.
That's and still are doing that.
I guess they are.
I know we are. Okay. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of other things we talked about. I know one of the things you were talking, and we're going to get into both these, was the way that the Germans received the American soldiers here just a few years after World War II. And secondly, where you were housed there in this little German town, you were actually using a facility that was formerly what?
German cavalry back
German cavalry, probably a World War II unit, because early on.
Maybe. I don't know how much they used horses then, but
well,
it
in
was
World
a
War
cavalry.
II, there was a good, not a cavalry units, but they used them for hauling equipment and supplies and things a lot of times.
Yeah, that's where we was at.
And they redid it and everything, but that's where you guys were actually in. I think you said the motor pool was where the
motor pool was where the stalls were for the horses.
Interesting.
And they had to redo all that, of course.
All right, let's talk briefly about the town that you were in. What was the condition of the town when you?
Heilbronn was a city of about 13,000, about the size of Brookhaven, and they got carpet bombed before we got through World War II, and they killed about 10,000 people there.
Goodness.
And they were making a pretty good recovery. But all the buildings, they were still rebuilding some of them. Some of them had pock marks on them where the bullets had bounced off the walls and everything. But it was still tore up pretty good.
I bet it was.
But they were.
Now, carpet bombing is when they would just put down hundreds of bombs, and just every 30 or 40 feet, and it would just destroy everything in an area like just putting down carpet grass.
And like I said, this was in the Neckar Valley, and that was a beautiful valley, really.
So I've always heard that Germany is a beautiful country.
Yeah, it is.
Now, tell me about your experience with the German people. Probably didn't see a lot of them, couldn't communicate with them, but how did they receive you, an American soldier in Germany after World War II?
Some of them treated us real well. Others didn't have anything to do with us. They wouldn't talk to you or nothing. But they were, like I said, they were coming around. They were getting better. And I could talk to them a little bit. I got where I could understand what they were saying. They could understand what I was saying. But they could understand English better than I could understand German.
All right, this is neat. Now, you were stationed here in Germany how long?
2 years.
2 years.
24 months.
Yeah. Were you actually able to? Did you see what was actually you were encrypting and sending off, or did you understand, or was it in such a
it was
code?
in English.
So you were reading what was being sent.
Oh yeah, we had to redo it on teletype machine.
Teletype machine and send it.
Yeah, so we had to read it off and put it on tape. It was a strip about this wide, or about a half inch, 3/4 inch wide, and we fed it into that, and it went through that machine and encoded it. And
wow.
it went to who we was addressing.
So you probably spent a lot of time typing.
Well, we had to know what we were doing typing.
Absolutely.
You couldn't say the wrong thing and get somebody to drop a bomb on somebody.
Exactly. So how many guys were actually in your group there that was doing this?
The four shifts you talking about?
Yes, sir. Per shift.
About 24, 28 of us. 24, I think. Might have been 28.
Is that per shift?
No.
Oh, total. Mm-hmm.
It would take 6 of us at a time.
I got you. Okay. 6 men per shift.
Yeah. And we had double locks, double doors, and everything in there. It was a secure place. And there was nobody allowed except what the boss gave us to start with. And I say boss, that's what he was. He was our boss. Mm-hmm. He gave us a list of who was allowed in and who wasn't allowed in. And we had a little trouble with that a couple of times, but it didn't amount to much.
When you say it was secure, did y'all have military police at the doors?
We were the police.
Yeah, well, didn't know if you had anybody outside watching the door.
We protected ourselves.
Okay.
They were armed.
Okay.
So that's and if anything happened where it was a real emergency, we would have to go and wake up the officer of the day and let him know something was going on.
I got you.
Yeah.
Well, if something had happened, I guess there was ways to destroy the equipment so that nobody wouldn't fall into the wrong hands.
Yes, we'd have to destroy all our equipment if we got overrun anyway.
Good gracious! So you guys were involved in some pretty classified, top secret things that were going on after this.
Yes, it was. And we have connections with the Britons too.
Yeah, you were talking about that. I was going to bring that up.
See, they were our partner in all this, and we also had communications with them.
There weren't any British personnel there
yes,
with
it was.
Oh, there were? Okay.
Not in the communications center itself, but
Gotcha.
They were there. Yes.
Very interesting. So this is the early stages of not only the Cold War, but the listening in and monitoring and eavesdropping and keeping
It was interesting.
I bet it was.
Yes, it was.
Well, that has really been neat talking to you now. So you were there 2 years, and after that, did you ride the boat back?
Yes, I did. I was supposed to fly. I had orders to fly back, and I said, well, it won't take me long. Well, I got bumped. You know what bump means?
Uh-oh.
I got bumped off my flight.
Oh, my word.
Somebody else wanted that slot, and they got it. But I was assigned then to the USNS Rose. That was a bigger ship, but it was still rough coming back. But it wasn't rough on me. I enjoyed it, really. I went out and looked out and everything.
How long a trip was it?
7 days over there. It took us 8.5 going over there, and about 7 or 8 coming back, about the same. A little over a week.
So you got back to the States,
right?
And your career, your military career.
Yes, I came home for 30 days. I had 30 days leave coming, and I left home and went back to Fort Meade, Maryland.
Right.
That's where the NSA's at, National Security Agency.
And the NSA and the ASA were very closely linked.
They were our grandpa or our big brother, or what you want to say.
Well, I guess ultimately the information you guys were gathering was going to the NSA.
That's right. That's correct. They when we sent something that was it went straight on to the NSA. But anyway, I was assigned there, and I spent my entire time back in the States after I got out from over Germany with them.
Gotcha.
And that was bumping shoulders with some big people in that place. I mean, high up.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Well, I'm telling you, Mr. Arnold, it's been a treat for us to have you here today. This is an aspect of the military that I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody about, learning a little bit about the ASA. And it's just been a real treat for us to have you here and for you to share these experiences from your life and your service to your country.
Can I say one more thing?
Oh, absolutely.
I was in basic training 1 month after Elvis got out. He went to Germany. He was over there for about a year after I got there. But I didn't know where he was at.
You never saw Elvis?
No.
But y'all were in the same country?
Got trained in the same place.
Got trained in the same place?
He didn't get trained at the ASA.
That's right.
He was in light armor
That's right.
That's right. Artillery.
Well, let me just say, Mr. Arnold, once again, on behalf of the United States, our community, our country, we're grateful for your service to your country, your willingness to wear the uniform and to serve in the way that you did. And it's been a real treat for us to have you here on SuperTalk Radio as we've, again, interviewed one of our true American heroes. Thank you, Mr. Arnold.
You're welcome. If I could do it again, I would.
Good for you.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.